I talk to animals rather than humans. How do we deal with this? I forget to use a bathroom. You think I don't have problems right now?
On my grind all day, gonna make $1 million that someday. You know.
Hi everyone, my name is Razza and welcome to DOERSTALK podcast. Quickly about this podcast. So I want to start this podcast specifically about doers, not just about people who dream about doing their stuff, but also about people who are doing. Maybe it's people who are struggling, maybe it's people who are like trying to overcome some specific barriers or bottlenecks on their way, and also about people who are actually succeeding while trying to get to their goals. And just to let you know that I'm actually filming these, so this is definitely going to be available on my YouTube channel, Razza Official, and you'll be able to type hashtag DOERSTALK. That's going to be easy way to find out about this video version of the podcast. But otherwise, I want to go to my guest. My guest today is Daniel Ramamoorthy, also known as I'm Dan Ram. Daniel is speaker, coach, entrepreneur, and artist. And just a funny, quick thing actually, I'll tell you, Daniel. The funny way we actually met in the Starbucks, just randomly. I was sitting there and he saw my boosted board and he asked me about it. And a few months later, I asked Daniel to come over to my podcast and he kindly agreed. So here we are. I know Daniel kind of gave a brief intro about yourself, but give me a macro intro about yourself, like where you come from, what's your background, what are you currently doing, and we'll kick in from there.
Oh man, that's a big question. First of all, thank you for having me on the podcast and the video, the vlog. This is very cool. Nice little setup. I love how technology has evolved to the point that we can share ideas from two different parts of the world, coming together, overseeing beautiful Dublin, Ireland. It's amazing. So Dan Ram is what I go by because Daniel Ramamoorthy is way too long. I'm an Indian citizen that was born in United Arab Emirates. I grew up in 10 countries around the world. That currently lives in Dublin, Ireland, and I work on 5 continents. So being international is a big part of who I am. Mm-hmm. Maybe by design, but it's been my whole life because my father was an Indian diplomat. So that's why we moved every 3 years to a new country. That taught me the importance of reinvention. I think we live in a time where it's important to be able to reinvent yourself.
Okay.
Every country I moved to, I had to start again with, hi, my name is Daniel. But every time and where are you from? But every time it presented an opportunity to recreate who I was. So some countries I explored the music side of me. Other countries I explored the sports side of me. And I think in a world where things are changing very quickly, it's important to be able to reinvent. Even the last 8 years here in Ireland, I first came as a full-time student doing my MBA. Then master's in business.
Fair enough.
And then from there, I moved to working in private equity.
Okay.
And doing budgets and CFO kind of roles in major investments. And then from there, I went to becoming a radio presenter. And I had a show for 4 years, my own show, talk show. And then from there, I moved to the startup world, and then now I'm doing some speaking, but I also do a little bit of government work in the middle and lecturing, and it's all because I'm willing to deal with change and willing to find opportunities and chase those opportunities. I think the moment we stagnate and the moment we feel stuck, it comes from the moment we choose or decide not to evolve. And I think reinvention's key.
Definitely.
So on a macro level, that is who I am. I'm a man who reinvents and recreates.
Perfect. And Daniel, I obviously, as you mentioned, you became then speaker, right? You started speaking, and I noticed you speaking a lot. You're doing like different type of gigs all around the world, right? Almost. And I just wanted to speak about that specifically because when I watch some of your videos, it becomes like you come across very interactive, very articulate. How did you realize that you are actually a good speaker?
I did not, is the answer.
All right.
I had it said over me many times. I think words are really powerful.
Yeah.
Some people wait for the change of a clock to determine a new day or a new opportunity.
Okay.
I think it's a change of the mind that is the most powerful thing. And I think a big part of that is words. It's things that we say. We believe the story we tell ourselves.
Yes.
Sometimes you need help. And with public speaking, I needed help. See, with the entrepreneur world, which I know we'll come to, I believed I could do it. And so I did. With speaking, it was accidental. It was a complete fluke. I've never been to a Toastmasters class. I've never taken any training. I hold no degrees of certification in public speaking. I still am an introvert. I was the shyest, quietest kid in school growing up. I talked to animals.
You, I would never tell that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I talk to animals rather than humans. That is the truth of who I am. That was my story until people started saying, Dan, you speak really well. Dan, you communicate really well. Dan, you're interesting to listen to. And I was like, oh, wow. So when you hear those words said over and over and over again, at some point you start believing it.
Yeah.
And that became the new story. And so the speaking gig has only been for the last maybe 2 years. It's been relatively new.
So you decided that you're a good speaker based on the feedback that you're receiving from others.
Yeah, other people told me
that kind of
I was a
gave
good
you
speaker.
confidence, right?
Yeah, because I was doing what everybody does, where a teacher says, hey, we have a class presentation, everyone has to speak for 2 minutes. That's where I started too. Everyone starts at that level. You know, I had maybe a few friends ask me to say a few words at a wedding, or, you know, in a church, or at a local community center where someone says, hey, say a few words. Everyone has those baby opportunities. And it's just in those opportunities, I worked hard, I studied hard, I practiced hard, I gave it my best, as I do with everything.
Yeah.
And then people come up to me afterwards and go, yeah, you have such a good energy to you. And the first few times I just thank you, because it's what everyone says. Even if you do badly, people come and say, oh, good job, thank you for sharing.
But you didn't practice to be coming out as good at articulate something. You didn't practice those things. It was just in you. It's what people noticed, right? Or
so
did you practice before?
Well, I practice everything.
Okay.
Like even on the way here, I was warming up my voice. Do you know, like when you speak, you gotta warm up. It's just like when you play a sport, you gotta warm up.
Of course.
So I always practice. What I mean is I got no official training in any of this stuff. And it was not intentional.
Yeah.
Being a public speaker was nothing, it was never a dream. I never wrote it down anywhere. That one was accidental. Now there are other things that I have been intentional. This is not my philosophy in life that you just fall into things.
Okay.
But I am saying that sometimes you do. And for me, public speaking was something I fell into, not because I chose it, not because I determined it, not because I forced it, but because other people saw it in me and other people pulled it out of me.
That's very interesting, because I think originally it also needs to be in you as well. I don't think it's just you just can take it and do it as well. As you said, some people require practice, some people don't. But do you think specifically in relation to public speaking, can a person who doesn't think that he can be public speaking, can he be intentionally good public speaker or not?
With coaching and training, yes. So I have taken what I have learned over the last 2 years and put together a 6-week course on helping people who haven't fallen accidentally into it like I did, and who want to be intentional about being a public speaker on building that. So with such people, I think it is possible to coach, because everything I have, you got to remember, I wasn't this before.
Yeah.
And so even though I did not have an official trainer, I trained myself along the way. Everything from who's your audience, what's your style, what are your intros and outros, what's your brand, what about the social content around you, all of that stuff I had to figure out. I just was like, oh, someone would say, Dan, send your contract. I'm like, what contract? And then someone would say, Dan, can you send your slides? And then I'm looking at PowerPoint or Keynote, whatever you use, and I'm like, what color should the background be? Should it be blue today? Should it be red today? And then I was like, you know what? I need to be intentional. So I started doing all of that, and now I'm like, you know what? Other people won't have 2 years to build it. They want it now. So I'm like, all right, cool. Let me work on a 6-week program. So I do think it's trainable and coachable because I've trained myself the long way in getting there. And I think you can take some of that and go faster.
Interesting. And the reason I asked specifically about public speaking, I thought maybe business can be taught, but I thought maybe public speaking can't be, because I think a person's supposed to be kind of extrovert to be good at it, from just on their own, not to mumble, just be articulate automatically. But if you reckon that can be coached, so that's great news.
Mumbling can be coached. Being afraid of the stage can be coached. Anxiety can be coached. Not knowing how to communicate your story can be coached. All of it can be coached. And also, you don't have to be an extrovert. You don't have to be outgoing. You don't have to have good English. There's so many ways to communicate. These days, People communicate through videos and photos and animation.
Exactly.
And you don't have to speak words.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many ways to do it. I was on stage the other day and someone brought a big cube over their head. And the cube spoke. All they did was stood. They just stood there and the cube spoke. But it was so interesting to listen to a massive cube over someone's head talking. But he programmed the cube. Because what he couldn't do was do it on the spot.
Was it like similar to Stephen Hawking whenever like he was speaking through the monitors, right?
Sort of, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, and people listen to Stephen all the time. They
Exactly.
still listen to him now, even after he's passed away. You know, because he found a way to communicate that wasn't normal, wasn't what everyone else was doing,
Yeah.
but what he was saying was profound. It's what people want to hear. So, it's coachable.
Perfect. No, thanks for that, Daniel. And Daniel, the other thing I wanted to ask you about, as you said that there are things that you did intentionally, things that you did unintentionally.
Mm-hmm.
You said you did entrepreneurship intentionally, right? How did you know that this is yours? And you said you start doing it because you realize you can do it. How did you know that you can do it? What was the moment where you just realized, okay, I'm succeeding here and I will be able to do it then afterwards?
Cool. So, it was a combination of necessity and success.
Okay.
Necessity was, after 2 degrees, having an economics degree from Yale University, having an MBA from Trinity College, both fantastic universities. I applied for 10 jobs, got rejected by all 10. I applied for another 20.
Did you apply in
got rejected by
Dublin
20.
or abroad as well?
I applied in Dublin.
Okay.
And I applied in hundreds of jobs.
All right.
And I got rejected by all of them. So the necessity was no one was willing to hire me, so I needed to create a job because I needed money. So that was a necessity part of it.
Okay.
Until then, I'd never built a business. That was the kick that I needed. Because when you're in the safe zone, a side business or a side hustle is exactly, it's a hobby, it's a passion. But when you have nothing else creating money, you put a different kind of focus on it. So first part was necessity. The second part was a success factor. And that was the year before when I joined as an MBA student. I was a full-time student at Trinity College. The average age of the person in class was 37. I was only 24. Yeah, you need 7 years of work experience before you can do the MBA.
Okay.
So people are a lot older doing the MBA. I was quite young, as the youngest in the class. And so during the MBA, I was bored because everyone else would go home and work, go to their wife or husband or their kids.
Exactly.
Whereas I just had all this time.
Yeah.
And so I was in a shopping center. Dundrum Shopping Center is only 10 minutes away from here, where we're shooting this podcast and vlog right now. And I saw a choir singing in a shopping center. And all of a sudden I realized what was a commercial space suddenly became an experience. Where I'm from, you go to shops to buy things.
Yeah.
There's a vegetable market, and the only thing they sell are vegetables. There's a fruit market, the only thing they sell is fruit. There's a fish market, the only thing you sell is fish. You don't buy clothes in a fish market. You don't buy shoes in a fruit market. You go for its purpose.
Correct.
Not in Dundrum, though. In Dundrum, people go to just hang out. There's movies, there's music, there's little interactive things. You can even go play golf in Dundrum Shopping Center. That was the first time I'd been in that kind of experience. So it sparked an idea in my head. I said, in India, Christmas is a private affair. It's not like the Western world where there's Christmas trees and lights and shops are all giving discounts. In India, at that time, now things are changing, but at that time, about 7 years ago, Christmas was celebrated only by Christians in churches and in homes, not on the street. And so I saw I took
And
what
now
I saw.
is it being globalized now? Sorry to go there.
Now you can see fun things happening all the
Okay.
time. So I took what I saw in a shopping experience, a very basic experience, walking in, seeing a choir, and going, "Ooh, I love the music," and I almost forgot about shopping for a second, and I was just enjoying the music. And I was like, I want to bring this to India. And so in September, I spoke to a friend of mine in India and said, why don't we do something like this? Let's take Christmas on the street. So the idea was simple, and this is my philosophy: start now, start simple. So that was the idea. Was one night, 100 people, I would sing, my friend would speak, and free pizza. Simple concept. Start now, start simple. I think if I dreamt anything bigger, I would have been afraid. And so I decided to do that. So I saved up €1,000, which is hard when you're a student, to fly to India. And then I was working remotely. And I started building this idea of 100 people would rent a room. I would do some music and stuff like that. But the thing is, as I started working on it, I got really passionate about it.
Okay.
And whenever people say...
Sorry, that room was in the city center in India, right?
Yeah, in New Delhi.
Okay.
Yeah, we were just looking at like school halls
Yeah.
or, you know, conference halls or something, some space. We weren't necessarily thinking of a shopping center.
Okay. But then you started singing, like attracting all those people to come get...
Well, I was just talking. I wasn't even showing what I was doing. You know, you said that you work somewhere close to Microsoft. I remember once I was in church and there was this lady sitting next to me. It was my first time in that church. It was her first time in the church. So afterwards, I said, hey, what do you do? And, you know, she didn't even say anything. She was being very, like, I guess, humble.
Yeah.
And she says, oh, I work with animation. I work with software. And I was like, okay. And she was an older woman.
Yeah.
And so... I didn't think too much of it. And she said, what are you doing this Christmas? And I said, I'm going to go to India. I'm going to throw a party for 100 people. She says, oh, I want to come to India. And then a week later, she contacted me saying, you know, I haven't been able to get this India concept out of my head.
Yeah.
She's like, look, I can't fly to India, but I want to help you. And I was thinking, older woman, what can she help me with? And I was really surprised because she headed up the Azure team in Microsoft. I didn't even know that. She said, come to my office and I want to help create all the visuals behind your singing. So you're going to be singing, but on the stage behind you, I want to create the visuals. And I did not realize who she was and the team that she had. So I had the Microsoft team building out my visuals for this event.
Interesting.
And I was like, so it's just, but everything happened that way. I was on Facebook and I mentioned something about going to India. And then this German classical guitarist said, I want to go to India. And he said, you know, if you cover my flights, I'll happily play for free.
Yeah.
And then as we were chatting about it, we started building a volunteer team in India. One of them was watching India's Got Talent, like Britain's Got Talent. The winner was a choir. And so the winners of India's Got Talent found out about our event and said they wanted to debut their single at our event. And it started growing and growing. And before we knew it, in just 8 weeks, it went from a team of 2 people to a team of over 50. We went from 1 act, which was me, to 300 acts, local and international. Artists, dancers, musicians, visual, all kind of stuff.
Yeah.
We went from a 1-night event to a 6-day and night event. The first night, we had 1,500 people, which is a lot more than the 100 people.
Of course.
We canceled the free pizza. And then it started growing. Day 5, we had 50,000 people at the event. Day 6, we had over 140,000 people at the event.
Wow.
In that 6 days, we had 300,000 people. Now, if anyone told me, Dan, while you are a full-time student, while you are doing all your assignments and studying, and just with a couple hours by Skype alone, you're going to build an event for 6 days with 300,000 people, I would have said, no, thank you. But that is the power of start now, start simple. And I realized that entrepreneurship is less about the big vision and more about taking action today. When you take action today, it builds momentum. And that momentum leads to actual success. I think too many people want to fly a rocket into space, but they don't realize that Elon started somewhere with a computer building something in a bedroom.
Yeah.
That's where he started. And today he's able to build rockets that go to space.
Exactly.
And so, but it doesn't start there. So that's why I keep saying start now, start simple.
Now I get that. Actually, this is what was one of the things that I actually was going to ask you what you meant by that, but you just literally answered me with that. And that simplicity. So is that becoming to a company? Like, is that an event organization that you're actually organizing every single year for Christmas, or?
Yeah. So we did that for a few years and we sold that on. Okay. So now it's a successful event company that does a bunch of year-long indie events and larger events, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And that philosophy has guided and led every company I've created since then. So all my companies are very different. They all solve problems, but at the root of the philosophy, start now, start simple. And for example, I love driving cars, but I hate looking for parking. And so 2 years ago, I was thinking, like, there's got to be a better way to do this. So we started Googling and looking around and talking to friends about it. But the beautiful part is, at some point, you got to do something about it. Like, complaining about parking is what everybody does. But the difference between everybody and entrepreneur is, you know what? Let's build a team.
Oh, don't tell me you've created a solution for this.
We've created a solution for this, and let's solve it. You know, so we built a team, and we went about solving it by creating an app that, from the comfort of your chair or your sofa, before you leave the house, you can book somebody's driveway or parking spot.
Okay.
making them money and saving you money. Or you can book a commercial space like a shopping center or hotel.
Okay.
So if you're going to the airport, you can pay a lot of money to park at the airport or park at Crown Plaza, which is right next to it.
Exactly.
And then Crown Plaza gives you a free shuttle, but you wouldn't know that except through our app.
Yeah.
So you can find really good discounts, and now we're also working on public spaces, so even on the streets.
So can, let's say, regular landlords that, let's say, close to the airport, can they rent their own car park as well? Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah, you can rent your car
So
park
they
here.
can register into the app, just notify about their parking space, so that the potential people or people who are actually looking for the car spaces, they can rent that car park. Wow.
And while right now it's a team of over 14 people with lots of developers and front end and back end, and we're working on international franchise and all this stuff, and it's in a good place.
Yeah.
It started with a bunch of people complaining and going, hey, this parking thing is such a pain. Spinning around in circles and circles or looking for parking, there has got to be a better solution. But not stopping at complaining and just saying, let's do something. Grab a piece of paper, let's draw it out. What are all the different ways we can solve this?
Yeah.
And then actually acting on it.
That's perfect. That's great. And this is something that's extremely required to Ireland. This is like a white space in Ireland. Everyone's looking for parking. Is one of the biggest issues, and it's great that same as you resolved it with India, there was nothing in there, and you just created it there. Now, I think this is very interesting. Creating something that requires a demand and giving that supply to that demand is great. That's perfect. And Daniel, since you obviously mentioned that you're working on multiple type of projects at the moment and you're working on multiple businesses, tell me what are the major roadblocks or what are the major issues that you're trying to unlock at this current environment that you're working in?
Roadblocks for me personally, or roadblocks through the companies that we're solving?
To the companies, to you personally, it might be the people that you're working with, it might be something related to delegation, etc. Might be people that you're surrounded with as well. Different type of things, whatever relates to you or whatever relates to company, if you think that's one of the most important thing.
So let's start with personally. One of the things that I'm realizing is I live a very fluid life, and I think a lot of people desire that. I see that because when they see my content or they engage with me, they like how I juggle lots of projects. And I think a lot of people don't want to be stuck in one job. They want to do a lot of different things. I travel a lot, and I travel for work and pleasure, and they mix together.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't know if I'm working or having fun. It feels the same way to me. I think a lot of people want that. We're now in the middle of the day. I have zero obligations anywhere else, and I'm able to focus entirely in the podcast. I'm not coming in wearing a suit from my previous meeting, rushing off to my next meeting. But if I had an investor meeting right afterwards, I would have time to go wear a suit. And if I want to play squash afterwards, I will go change and play squash. And I have complete control over my time.
Yeah.
I do whatever I want. If I want to cancel every meeting for the rest of the day, I can do it. I think people want that. People want control over the time. I call it just being fluid. I go with the flow.
Yeah.
And
That's the beauty of doing your own thing, right?
That is the beauty of doing your thing. And I think a lot of people want that. I attract those people. So one of my personal challenges is, how do I productively work and engage with such people?
Okay.
So my vlogger wants that lifestyle. My executive assistant wants that lifestyle. I want them to have that lifestyle because I know I work really well like that.
Yeah.
But how do you get work done when everyone's fluid? How do you set expectations? How do you set accountability? How do you create systems that facilitate that?
Okay.
Do you know? So if I need a contract signed by tomorrow morning.
Okay.
And my executive assistant decided that she really wants to work from Singapore. And so now she's flying to Singapore.
Yeah.
She's on a flight. How do I get that contract signed tomorrow at 9:00? Do you know? Like, if I was in office, I just know that she'll be in the office at 9:00. It'll just get done.
Exactly.
So this is one of my personal roadblocks is I like my lifestyle.
Yeah.
In fact, I love it.
Yeah.
I want other people to have it. I just need to figure out good ways to make that work where efficiency is not dropped, where productivity is not dropped, where maximizing opportunity is not dropped. Because I think on a solo mission it works out, but as a community, I don't know if it does. So that's a personal challenge that I'm working on right now.
Yeah.
Is trying to figure out how do I engage with all these great people.
And that's the reality. So it's interesting that you say it out loud and you don't hide away from it. It's reality. Like it's something that most of people, like many people like yourself, I think they might be experiencing this and they might resonate with this type of issue because this is what comes straight to my mind.
It's what companies want too. Companies want happy employees because happy employees get better work done.
Yeah.
The expectations of what a happy employee has radically changed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in my dad's time, it was safety, security, a decent place to work, maybe a nice desk, and optional good people.
Yeah.
Now it's flipped around. No one cares about a desk. No one cares about security. What they want is great people. They want to be invigorated. They want to work with amazing people around them. They want to work on their terms. Some people like a desk, some people like a beanbag. And it's not that if you just put beanbags, everyone's going to be happy. It's the choice. People want the choice. So they want both the desk and they want the communal space and they want the kitchen countertop and they want everything. And you have to provide all. It's a changing dynamic. And I think employers need to think about that.
Perfect.
And I think employers absolutely have to think about that. So it's not just for freelancers and people like myself, but I think everyone is grappling with how do we deal with this? Because at the same time, I am not compromising on my expectations. I want killer work going out of me. So, you know, and this is why I love my vlogger right now, and a quick shout out to Dan, who's my current vlogger. I love that even if I'm traveling, even if I'm MIA, he knows we post every Wednesday and every Sunday. Perfect. And he will find something and he will put something up, even if I haven't recorded it. I love that. And so what happens then is I don't care if he's traveling or not traveling, if he's local or not, if he's got exam, like that doesn't matter because I know he will deliver. And we set the expectations clear. So there is a way. I'm just trying to figure that out. So that's my major thing right now is I want to attract the greatest minds in the world.
Okay.
I'm aware that their expectations are important and I value them.
Yeah.
The question is how do we create the systems, the structures, the mechanisms to engage in a way that is so counter everything else that's out there, that really gets the best out of them. So that's what's happening on a personal level. On a professional level, there's a lot of different things. One big one that I'm trying to solve right now is I love making connections. You were good at remembering where we first met.
Yeah.
I think that's very powerful.
Yeah.
What's also powerful about you is that you followed up and created an actual actionable project out of this. That's really good. Both those things are fantastic human traits to have. You'll be surprised by the number of opportunities are missed because people don't do one of those two things. They forget people's names, they forget where they met them. And, you know, we've been in those meetings where you're like, where do I know you from? Who are you again?
Yeah.
To me, that's a missed opportunity if you can't remember where someone is. Second, if you don't follow up, that's a missed opportunity. You know, you tell someone, yeah, I'd love to help you out. And then that person never calls you up again.
Exactly.
That's a missed opportunity.
I think that's something people have. In general, they have that fear. You know, they feel like what if I'll call him or if I follow up on something like that, or he might refuse. It's just general fear, it's small fear of. And the thing is, people are afraid to overcome that fear. If I wouldn't check you out, I didn't know you, but I checked you out on the YouTube, and it was like, you know, such a cool, interesting guy. I was surprised. I actually don't know you because I know loads of people. At least I'm aware of them. Loads of people about like you, like, you know, entrepreneurs who are doing their own thing. And then when I saw some of your content straight away after we met up, I was like, so what a cool guy. And I actually mentioned you in one of my vlogs as well. I'm not sure whether you saw it or not, but like next day I was filming and I said, like, I just saw Ram. Yeah, exactly. And then I had you in mind because I had this idea in my head that I potentially might start a podcast, and you know, the people that I would love to invite, you'd definitely be one of them. And then there you go. When I decided, I invited you, and thanks for kindly agreeing on that. So to the add and what you said there, I think it's a small bit of a fear. Everyone has it, and if we just, you know, as Daniel said, start now, start simple. And it's a simple thing. You just got to ask at least. And if the person says yes, it's fine. If it doesn't say yes, maybe you can do it in the future. It doesn't mean, if the person doesn't says no, then you can do that in the future or in different circumstances, etc.
Precisely. And so professionally, one of the new problems I'm solving is around these missed opportunities. And I want to create a really fun, interactive, user-friendly system for people not to miss human-to-human connections. Because this professional opportunity came from a human connection in Starbucks. And I think every really good opportunity comes from just knowing people. So essentially, I want to create a platform that allows you to know people better. Yeah, so that's what I'm solving on a professional level.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Perfect. And Daniel, since obviously you're resolving loads of projects, and you are, as I mentioned earlier when I introduced you, are an entrepreneur, you're a speaker, artist, and the coach. You are like, you have 4 identities. How do you manage to juggle all of them together and be efficient at those?
Yeah, there's only 4 I share. There's others as well. I'm also an advisor to the Irish government. I'm also a lecturer in the university. I'm also a consultant. I have a few different things. I just put those 4 to keep it simple. How I juggle those things? Good question. I think it's a few personality traits. For example, I'm very good at compartmentalizing. So
What's that? I don't even know what that word means.
Compartmentalizing, as in I'm very good at focusing and putting things in a box. So right now, I'm focused on this podcast and this vlog. I'm not thinking about a new business plan. I'm not thinking about my next meeting. I'm here right now.
Okay.
I'm present. That's a personality trait, to be able to
So
switch
even
everything
if you have
else
some
off.
kind of a problem sometimes, so let's some people have some kind of problem from their business or whatever, and let's say you're coming here, would that, like, can you like literally distract yourself from that and just focus on this thing?
You think I don't have problems right now?
No, but
I'm an entrepreneur. That's why I'm an entrepreneur, is because I like obstacles and challenges.
you know what? I felt
many
that
of
you
them.
don't have problems, but because you are, as you mentioned, you are so focused right now, I don't even feel it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, probably will feel it. But
Oh man,
to you.
I'm drowning in stuff right now. But it's like a personality trait. You compartmentalize, you know? 2 days ago, I had a horrible day. A horrible day for something that was completely out of my control.
Yeah.
It was some paperwork that I needed, 100% needed, that was delayed for zero reason of my own. Just a problem with the system.
Yeah.
And that ruined a huge opportunity for me. All of it completely out of my control. I needed to receive a document that was someone else's obligation to send me, and they didn't send it to me. And so I pay the penalty. It doesn't affect them at all, completely affects me. It was a horrible, horrible day. I was glum and sulky for about an hour, maybe an hour and a half. And then I just decided, you know what? I still got the rest of the day. It's my life. Let me go for it. Nothing changed in the situation. I just chose to not think about it. That's it. So that's compartmentalizing. That's when you take, here's the problem, get out.
But like, how can you easily do it like this? Because
It's just your mind.
Yeah.
You gotta be able to train your
do you
mind.
meditate?
I do, yeah. Do a lot of meditation and mindfulness. I just think focusing, you know? Being able to focus. Like, I have a decent amount of ADD, but I'm able to focus too.
Okay.
I don't think you can juggle so many things if you don't have ADD.
But I think,
So-
Daniel, that all comes with an experience as well. When you, as you said, like I decided not to think about it. You're practicing not to think about it,
Yeah.
and since you like do it on a constant basis, it becomes easier and easier, right?
Absolutely. So there's a few personality traits which I think help. I don't think they're necessary, but they help. So one is compartmentalizing. The other one is like laser focus. When I'm focused on doing something, I forget everything. I forget to use a bathroom. I forget to eat food. I just focus. I'm completely task oriented.
Yeah.
These are personality traits that help me juggle many things, because then when I'm doing, say, my business, I'm focused on the business. When I'm speaking on stage, I'm focused on speaking on stage. There are a few also things that everyone who's listening or watching can practice. One of those is time management. I was talking to Jay-Z's, he's actually a partner and manager for Jay-Z and Beyonce and the entire brand. And I asked him, what is your most valuable asset? And I was expecting him to talk about, like, he manages some of the biggest sports stars in the world, some of the biggest music labels in the world. And I was expecting him to name one of those things. And instead he said, Dan, my most valuable asset is my time. Because anything else, you can build, you can lose, you can build, you can lose, you can build, you can lose, and there's cycles.
Yeah.
time just goes. There's no way to reclaim time. There's no way to create time. You just lose time.
Yeah.
And that really got me thinking at that point, is like time management is key. So that's something that everyone can practice, is be intentional about your time.
Yeah.
Taking a 30-minute break is fine, but be intentional. Write in the calendar and say, for these 30 minutes, I'm going to take a break. And this is how. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to listen to music. I'm going to play my guitar. I'm going to draw something. That is a productive, good, healthy break.
I agree, especially when you write stuff and you can see what you've done. Even you might think like maybe like if you haven't written those, you might think what have I done. But if you've written those things, you'd be like, okay, I've done this, and that, and you feel more productive when you've written those things. Right?
Which is the second thing, is always write down your goals. I wake up every morning and I write down 3 things that I will do today. I will do whatever it takes. I will do those 3 things. Then I do have another list of maybe 5 to 10 of things I'd like to get done today.
Okay.
And then everything else is just on a general to-do list. I think a lot of people have a never-ending to-do list that never prioritizes.
Correct.
And also you open your email and even other people decide what your to-do list should be because you're listening to their WhatsApp message or their email. So what I do is I wake up, and before I even leave the bed, I think, okay, today is Friday. What do I want to get done today? Here are my 3 things. And I write it down. And there's a real great sense of success when you're able to scratch things off a list.
100%.
So time management can be practiced. Writing things down and being good about your priorities and tasks can be practiced. Those are 2 things that I think are also really helpful in juggling many things. The other third thing is have a great team. Like the more good people you have around you, the more you can get done. The only reason I can focus that much, I can be so time managed and all of that, is because when I'm doing one thing, there are other people managing everything else.
Okay.
Otherwise, those things fall apart. If you're one person trying to do 4 things, when I'm spending time here in the podcast, I'm losing a speaking opportunity. But the fact is I'm not.
Yeah.
My EA right now
Yeah.
is sending contracts to the speaking opportunity.
Okay.
My Park PNP team, my Treehouse team, my Num Media team, my Sanctify, all those other businesses are happening right now while I'm doing this. So you gotta have good people, otherwise you will lose when you're winning somewhere else.
And Daniel, does it matter for you when those people, let's say, don't put up to the specific task to 100% like you do?
Yes, they get fired.
Okay, so so what if they do 80% of the things that they try to do, and 80% is not bad, it's good, right?
No, 80% is fail.
Okay.
I point out the 20% the first time.
Okay.
The second time, I expect them to point out the 20% because sometimes people
Okay.
don't know the 20% that's missing. So the
Alright.
first time I show them, hey, this is the 20% you did not do.
Okay.
Next time, because they've already got it, I say, can you find the 20% you did not do? That tells me if they've learned something. The third time is when they get the, hey, you know what the 20%
Okay.
is. I know what the 20% is. Why hasn't it been done?
Yeah.
So we try to diagnose a problem. And then the fourth time, that's when we have the conversation.
Exactly. And especially if they said that, okay, I know this is 20% and this is what I'm going to improve on, that's what they said. Not even you said, but that's what they said, right? No, that makes sense. No, perfect. And I know we're kind of getting close to the time. And one thing I wanted to ask you, this is my last question, Daniel. To people, so since this is a specifically Doers podcast, and there's so many dreamers out there who want to do their own thing, but they don't do. What advice would you give to people who actually want to do, but they're still in dream stage?
Good. I think you know the 4 words that are going to come out of my mouth. Start now. Start simple.
Exactly.
It is, in fact, that easy. You have a dream. Great. Hypothetical situation. Anyone who's listening to this or watching this, you've got a dream. Here are possible start now, start simple things. 1, write it down. There's a huge step between taking an idea from your head and writing it down. All of a sudden, it becomes reality.
Yeah.
As long as it's in your head, it's a thought. And every great thing in the world started with an idea, but then something came of that idea. So one possible thing is write it down. Second thing, talk to friends about it. Talk to community. Because accountability comes in when you tell someone, I think I want to do this. And then they check in with you a week later and go, did you do that?
Yeah.
all of a sudden it becomes now doing as opposed to dreaming. Third thing that you can do is Google. Everyone's got the power of Google. You've got an idea, you've got a dream, Google it. See what other people did with that dream. Get some inspiration from somewhere else. These seem like tiny, useless steps, but the fact is, it creates momentum. The number of ideas and dreams that die in our own head.
Yeah.
But what happens is, you write something down. Do you know what will happen? A couple days later, you'll go back to that and you'll see that. It'll spark another thought. You'll write something else down. A couple of days later, maybe you'll send that to somebody. That's momentum. Or maybe you'll Google something and it might spark something else. Maybe it won't be even your original dream. It might be something else that comes to mind. You start looking that up. You know what you're doing? You're populating your head with knowledge. Yeah. You're learning. You're becoming an expert in that area. That's doing. They don't seem like big things, but that really is the power of start now, start simple.
Then what if they see, like, you know, if they want to start it, but if they feel like it's very, very difficult, or they're not sure whether they can or can't do it, what then?
Well, I would say extract it to something that you can do. So say you really care about the homelessness issue in Ireland. Mm-hmm. Can you solve the homelessness issue in Ireland on your own? No. It can be overwhelming. But then you extract it to something, like maybe geographically. I want to help the 4 homeless people that are on my street. Mm-hmm. Can you solve that? Yes. Or I really care about accommodation. And I want to work on policies around accommodation. Can you do that? Yes, you can do that. So maybe it's geographic, maybe it's the angle that you take, or maybe you go, you know what? I don't actually want to solve homelessness. I want more people to be aware because I don't have the power to do it, but somebody does. Yeah. So I want to start talking about it. So my solution, my start now, start simple is I'm going to commit that once a month, I'm going to get in front of my camera or on a podcast or on the radio, or I'm going to write a blog, but I'm going to communicate how this is a big issue. So I think sometimes it's just about extracting a problem that you can deal with. Yeah. There are a lot of things that you cannot do, but even in those things, there are things you can do. You know, and that's with everything. That's not even entrepreneurship. Yeah. Sometimes marriages are very complicated. I think most marriages are very complicated. Yeah. Can you solve it to make it the best marriage possible? Maybe not, because it takes 2 people. It takes you and it takes the other person. Exactly. But in that, is there something that you can do today to be a better person? Yeah. 100%.
And I agree with that, Dan, because when you at least written those down, and when you start actioning on those things, when you start it, even if you don't know whether it's going to be difficult, whether you'll be able to do it or not, but once you start it, let's say if as you said, if you'll start helping those 4 homeless people in your neighborhood, then once you start helping them, that will recreate something that you wanted to do, or something that you will be able to overcome, or will give you solutions. Mm-hmm. Once you start, might be something good, might be something bad, but you'll learn from it, and it's going to become even better. But you'll know and see it once you start and actioned on it, right?
Absolutely. I mean, there's a guy who's running around doing laps in front of us.
Yeah.
I have a friend who does marathons. I have a friend who's just finished doing his 102nd marathon, and he only started like 10 years ago.
102nd marathon?
Yes.
Oof. Fair play to him.
Do you know how he did 102 marathons?
Absolutely not.
Do you know how the fastest 100-meter dash happened? It all happened with exactly how you and I started, by crawling, by trying to put one foot in front of the other, and then falling over. We all had the same starting point. I don't think things need to be as complicated as we make them to be. We all have the same resources. I think people complain and say they're too young, or they're too old, they're too poor, or they're too rich, they're too famous, or they're not famous enough. These are all excuses. We all have the resources. Every marathon runner started off by crawling, just like you and I did, and learning how to stand first. Every big business started with an idea. Yeah. Every business. You think of Apple, you think of Microsoft, you think of even outside of the tech stuff, you think of Ford, you think of Mercedes. All these guys started with an idea. Someone was sitting there going, I think I can build a better car. Or someone goes, you know what? I think I want to build a computer that people can have in their house. You know, someone's going, you know what, I think I can build a product to help me with my beard. Everyone starts with some idea.
Yeah, there's either you dwell on that idea or you start executing on it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The difference between those who have done it and those who have dreamt it is literally execution, action, doing something. And that's where I think the start now, start simple is key.
Correct. Perfect, Daniel. Thank you very much for attending and answering my questions.
You're so welcome, my man.
And guys, if you like this podcast, then click subscribe, and I will see you next time. Thanks to my guest, Daniel Ramamoorthy. All the best. Peace.
Peace.
On my grind all day, gonna make $1 million selling that someday. You know I'm in the building when I write this way. Put me in the pound when I bite this game. Bitch, I'm an animal. Eating these rappers, I swear I'm a cannibal.